I needed to go somewhere. But the most traumatic part is when everyone else of those kids were cool, there was one kid who stayed back and just like held a gun at me to my head.
Yeah.
And all of the other kids were yelling at him like, don't shoot, don't shoot, don't shoot him, don't shoot him. Like, let's go, we're good, we got what we wanted. And this one kid just didn't care what they were saying. He was just standing over me with the gun pointed at me.
Yeah.
And he would like look back at them and then he would look back at me and they would be like, don't shoot. And they were like saying it louder every time, like, don't shoot him. And that was going on for like 2 minutes. And that felt like an eternity.
Yeah. And we're live, right? Awesome. So we're live. So welcome to the Adversity Kings podcast. We got special guest Joey Crivelli. How's it going, brother?
Good. How are you, man?
Good, dude. I'm doing really good. So we're obviously in a different studio today. We're in my mentor's studio, Simon Arias. Shout out Simon Arias. Can't wait to get him on the podcast. His schedule is crazy. Mm-hmm. So we got crazy schedules, but his schedule just kind of dwarfs everybody's. I mean, it's every second of the day. He's always occupied. It honestly makes me like just kind of analyze my schedule and be like, man, I got to be better, more on my shit.
Yeah.
But you got to be careful with being a schedule filler. Some people just fill their schedule with irrelevant things that just bring zero value.
Yes.
Like being busy work doesn't always mean like you're going to generate return on investment.
Exactly.
But that's not really what I wanted to open up with. I wanted to open up with you being dishonorably discharged. And what are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's a long story. My military background is a very long story, you know.
The Iranian military, or is it America?
The American.
Oh,
yeah.
God.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Air Force.
Oh.
Yes. So.
Okay, Maverick down.
Do we want to dive into that?
Might as well, dude. Take us down this journey of you not serving America.
So I actually was in the military twice. So it started off right out of high school.
2 dishonorable discharges.
Yes. No.
Holy shit.
But no, so the first one, I actually, it was an administrative discharge.
Yeah, same team fire.
Yes. And
you were firing on the same team.
Yes. Well, I was fresh out of high school, and I went in fresh out of high school. Had no idea what I wanted to do. I just knew that the real reason that I went into the military in the first place is because I knew as a young kid that I did not have the principles and the values and the ethics that I wanted to have.
Yeah.
Like that was my most authentic reason for going. It wasn't.
Why were you even curious about principles and values and ethics as a kid? I feel like most kids are just curious about like having sex.
Yeah. Well, I feel like my grandpa,
or if you're Peter, like playing games, collecting Pokemon,
video games. But my grandpa is why I was interested in that, because so all of my grandparents were immigrants, came over from Italy.
Yeah,
grandparents, great grandparents.
You said Croatia, not Italy.
Was it Russia?
Croatia.
Is that what you said? That's where you came over from?
No.
From Russia?
No.
Oh, okay. No, but
I said Africa and you started making fun of my people. I don't know why that's funny.
Well, anyway, so Italy, right?
So it's funny to be black?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to write that down. Go ahead.
So they came over, and my grandpa started all the car dealerships, him and his brothers, around the Pittsburgh area.
Yep.
And growing up, I always looked up to him because he was a very principled man. Mm-hmm. The way he would run the family and the business was the same. You know, I think we learned that from Simon, right? The same way that Simon runs the business is the same way that he treats his life in general.
Yes.
Right? Like when we talk about schedule, we know that there's going to be 30, like if Simon is with his family, you know not to reach out to him. Right?
Yeah.
You know not to hit his phone or anything like that, because that's his family time. That's put in his schedule. There's a purpose to it.
Yep.
There's value in it. It's the most valuable thing there could be.
Yep.
Right? So I seen that growing up as a young kid. And it's funny because with immigrants, they always say you have immigrants that come over and build something great. And then you have the next generation that takes it all for granted and ruins it all. And then the generation below that gets to see and learn from those lessons.
Yeah.
And hopefully they do something great as well.
Yeah.
It's like it skips a generation.
Yep.
And I was able to see what my grandpa did. He went to the Air Force before he built a business. So I seen everyone kind of like just taking. But I had a different mindset. I wanted to just do what my grandpa did.
Yeah.
Not take what he
Is this
had.
your mom's dad or your dad's dad?
My dad's dad.
Okay.
Yeah. So I wanted to do what he did, not take what he built.
Yeah.
Right. So I was like, all right, let me just go to the military and maybe I'll have those principles and those values, because I knew I didn't have like extreme discipline. I knew I didn't really understand like integrity and accountability and all of those kind of things. So I said, well, okay, if I go there, I might learn this or that, learn a thing or two, you know. And long story short, the first time I went, I had an opportunity with someone from back home when I went there to come and do something here that I really wanted to do, to start build a business and sacrifice time and everything like that. And long story short, you know, I had a talk with everyone there, and I found my way out with just an administrative discharge, which allows you back in the military later down the road.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then growing up for you, where'd you grow up? Newcastle?
Newcastle.
How'd you get into Newcastle?
Well, so when my family came over, they were in Pittsburgh. I think it would have been considered, like, I think it's Stowe Rocks now or McKee. I think McKee's Rocks or something. I forget the exact area, but my grandpa's brothers, they owned all the car dealerships.
Yeah.
My grandpa opened one in Newcastle.
Yeah.
So him and my immediate family and everyone under like my grandpa's family tree specifically, they all kind of migrated to the Newcastle area.
Yeah.
So then my dad worked there.
How'd your dad meet your mom?
That's a good question that I don't know.
You don't know?
Yeah, I actually don't know.
So who are you closest with, your dad or your mom?
My mom.
Okay. Is your dad still around?
You could say so.
Like on and off relationship for you with him?
Yeah. So I mean, like the thing that I learned is, because I want to have everlasting relationships regardless of what happened in people's lives.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that was hard for me. But what I learned is, regardless of who he is, what he does, I'm alive and I'm here.
Yeah.
Right. So to some extent, I should respect that, and I should try to have the relationship that we're allowed to, that we can have. Yeah. Kind of, in a way. You know what I mean?
So who was the most influential figure for you growing up? Your grandpa?
In all honesty, the most influential character for me growing up was being able to look, and this is weird that I had this ability, but I did have this ability. Yeah. But I was able to look at people, and I only ever had role models that showed me what not to be like. Yeah. Other than my grandpa. But my grandpa died when I was very young. Okay. You know what I mean? So
who runs the Crivelli dealerships now?
Other family.
Are you close with them?
I've never been involved with it.
No?
Yeah, no.
Close with them? Ever reach out and try to recruit you to come and get into the family business?
No.
Damn.
Nope.
Yeah, because like, he can't sell.
I set pretty strong boundaries and standards with things. And and I do it in a very respectful way. Yeah. So I think people already know with me. You know what I mean?
So you looked up to people that showed you what you shouldn't do and who you shouldn't be.
Well, I didn't look up to them, but I watched
They were the most
them.
influential.
Yeah, and I was able to see.
Who was like, that?
That was everyone. Literally everyone.
Like, so everyone is worse than you?
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. So I was growing up. It's funny. I was actually just talking to someone about this last night.
Are these cameras on?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So I was a very, what I would like to describe myself as when I was young.
Very special.
I had an uncontrollable, and it's almost a blessing and a curse because I still deal with it to this day. Yeah. But I have an uncontrollable
brain
curiosity.
Yeah.
Like of figuring it out. Yep. And that's why still to this day.
Figuring you out, like your identity.
Figuring myself out, figuring out.
Like who
so
you,
like what I had to do to save myself, I had to put very far destinations that I have to get my way to, because
and I got friends just like you know what I mean, that don't know what they like.
Yeah. I think
that are curious.
Yeah. What are their names?
Sam Marzullo. I'm just kidding.
Peter's. But no, like in a way where it's like I for me to stimulate myself, to keep myself going, I have to put destinations very far into the future.
Yeah.
Like 80 years old.
Yep.
These are, you know what I'm saying? So now I have something to be able to figure out, because it's like, if I don't have something to figure out, I don't know how to survive.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I have to be like, what's going on? I'm curious. How do I do it? Piece things together. And if not, it's like my mind will just do it for me.
Yeah.
So I'd rather be the one who creates what I'm going to figure out, rather than the unfed mind devours itself.
Yes.
Right. So I have to feed it something to stay curious about, with a purpose and a direction, versus it aimlessly doing it in a downward
So
spot.
what age do you think you started to discover that you wanted to establish purpose in your life? Like, there's obviously, when things are accomplished, there's direction, there's purpose, there's goals set in place.
Yeah, it was in the third grade.
Third grade.
It was I distinctly remember it because my uncle threw a football at my face and it knocked my 2 teeth out, my 2 front teeth.
You didn't put your hands up and catch?
No, I wasn't even prepared. And he was one of those uncles where he was like, hey, watch this, to someone else and throw a football.
Sounds like me.
Yeah. But I remember being in the third grade because they would always try to diagnose me with ADHD, ADD.
Yeah.
Because for me, the bell would ring, we would go in class, and then the class would be over. And that's all that I would remember. Because I would fall into these like deep thoughts of like, why are these teachers here? And why are they teaching us? And do they really want to teach us? And why are all these kids gathered in a group? And why are they walking us in a line? And what are they training us to? Like, I was in the third grade thinking about stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And right then and there, I started to want to understand what life was about. You know what I mean? And I remember it like vividly. I remember I had that. It's weird because when I had, like you said, when did you discover that you like wanted to have a purpose, or when did you start to think about that?
Yeah.
I know it was the third grade because that's where all my memories in life start at.
Yeah.
It's weird. I don't really remember anything before that. So that must have been what like made my conscious start to activate. You know what I mean?
It's like that saying, everyone has 2 lives.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So what was like the first life-changing book that you read then?
The first life-changing book that I've ever read.
Our podcast could be fucked, dude.
The first
This dude
life-changing
got Omicron over here.
that I ever read was Mastery by Robert Greene.
Yeah, it's a good book.
Mastery by Robert Greene. And I read a lot of books before that. I guess you could say one was called Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. That was, but I was really young when I read that, so I really didn't understand. I didn't understand it. It was kind of just like, oh, I'm reading, and you go through that cocky stage when you start to learn. You know what I mean? Like, instead of realizing that learning is like you learning more that you don't know anything, well, at the beginning you're kind of like, I'm learning and other people aren't learning. Yeah. You know what I mean? That little cocky stage. Yeah. I feel like when I was like young, that's what I was going through then.
Still might be there a little.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
Okay.
Well, that was ego, right? but no, Mastery was definitely the first life-changing book that I've ever read.
Yeah.
Good line. But yeah, Mastery.
So you read Mastery, and then as you grew, when did your parents split up? As you were growing up, when did they split up?
They split up actually very recently.
Okay.
But it should have happened.
So they split up probably officially recently, but when did they like really split up? Like, were they always together? Did you live with both of them? Like, what is life?
Deep down, yeah. So my parents were very sacrificial because of the love they had for me. I'm an only child. Yeah. And an Italian family, only child. Yeah. Like, that's a very, I guess you would say, like, there's a lot of pressure. Right, because Italian people naturally, like, are
really
like,
family oriented.
Yeah, and I feel like my dad never wanted to disappoint his father. Yep. Right, growing up because of who my grandpa was, and my father. That's the one thing I did learn from my father was loyalty. Throughout all of the nonsense, extreme loyalty. Like, because people think loyalty is just, oh, you know, I'm loyal to you, this, that, and the third. Loyalty is, here's what, this is how I was taught what loyalty is. If I had an opportunity to cross you, right, and there was a real incentive for me to do so, like a real motivation that would give me a big reward to cross you. Yeah. And I still didn't do it because of my love for you. That's loyalty. Or on the other hand, I would have to make a sacrifice that would bring me really low in life out of my love for you.
Yeah.
That's loyalty.
Yeah.
Right. And that's how I learned it to be.
Yeah.
Right. So like my mom and dad, they sacrificed their happiness to try to teach me loyalty.
Yeah.
So they probably, like, if I wasn't around, they probably wouldn't have been together at all. But they sacrificed. Now, there's a blessing and a curse in that. One, they taught me loyalty. They taught me sacrifice. They taught me that you know, nothing great comes
So you guys all
easy.
grew up in the same home?
Exactly.
But you were closer with your mom?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Your dad was just out working?
Well, so my dad, he was very, it was like you brought a wild wolf into your house, or a wild tiger
Let's
into your house.
pause real quick. Do you say woof or wolf?
Wolf.
Okay. We can keep going.
But like imagine you bring a wild tiger into your house and you just let it do as it pleases.
Yeah.
You're on edge. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know when it's going to arrive, when it's going to leave. Like there's no controlling it. That's how my dad was.
Yeah.
Right.
A tiger.
Yeah. And that
Like the Frosted Flakes tiger?
No, like you. Like the line.
What's that Frosted Flakes commercial with the tiger? What's he like?
Peter filmed that for them.
Yeah,
Did you
he's
film
like,
that for them?
what is he like? He's like, are you ready for Frosted Flakes?
Peter, when did you film that commercial for Kellis? I Got Milk. Remember the Got Milk commercials?
Oh, yeah, they got milk commercials.
Peter did those too.
Yeah, he did. And you and Sam recently did one.
Got Milk.
Yeah, you guys had that.
What were we talking
That
about?
was a good one.
What were we talking about?
We were talking about you and Sam.
Me and Sam.
No, but we were talking about your dad being a wild tiger coming in your house.
Well, to go back to what we were saying, you know, like they probably should have. What I told them when I grown up, I told them I wish y'all would have done what was best for you, not for me.
Yeah.
And separated.
Yeah.
Because now you're 50 trying to figure out how you could be happy when you could have done it at 30.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because deep down it didn't make sense.
Yeah.
You know, it just didn't make sense. But they sacrificed for me.
And then you're about 30 now.
I'm about 30.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I tell people.
Good.
Yeah. 23 though.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, you know what I mean? So that's kind of, I don't even know where we were going with that.
Did you go down any like bad routes?
Oh yeah.
Middle school, high school? Were you ever in any bad crowds? Because it sounds like, you know what I mean? You were born and then you immediately like had some like intellectual awakening and you started reading about Malcolm X and, you know, mastery, and you mastered yourself in the 3rd grade. So like, did you ever live as a kid, or were you a master and you were just casting spells in a fucking room?
Well, so I actually didn't start reading or anything until I got into the military.
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
You are human.
Oh yeah, no. I was every, you know, it's weird because everyone who knows me, I feel like people from my hometown really don't know like what I do anymore.
When'd you lose your virginity?
I don't even know. Young age. She's a young age.
You just tripped on your tongue.
like you know, super young. Somewhere around like when I was getting into my teenage years.
You were getting in there? You're not gonna say? Was it like weird? Or was it like a mastery moment for you? Like you had it planned out. You guys went over like a philosophical speech.
No,
Marcus Aurelius.
It's in growing up in Newcastle. It's like
everyone grows up faster. Like kids have kids. Simon always tells me that. Like Newcastle. That goes for any like rougher area. You know what I mean? Because he's from Youngstown. He's like, and your kids are having kids,
and your parents can't control it, no matter how good your parents are.
No matter, the good kids. You know what I mean? Like you might be an only child, and you know what I mean. You have some form of, you know, competency like yourself, and it's like you're still like. You out there getting it on, you know what I mean? You're 9 years old, you know?
It's the culture of the city. Like regardless of how you raise your kids, the kids together are going to figure out what's going on, and they're going
But it creates this cycle of like poverty, and I don't mean just like materialistically, I mean internally, because nobody has time to mature. You know what I mean? Because obviously I joke a lot, you know what I mean? My personality is just sarcasm for the majority of it. But it comes back to points of like, realistically speaking, when there is a lack of maturity and you're recreating and reproducing an immature, demographic, you put yourself in positions where things don't necessarily get accomplished, and what is getting accomplished is just lessons that can never really be taken to heart.
Yes,
because everything is so young and so fast.
Yeah, it's weird. That's a really good point, because when I think about Newcastle, I think about it as one giant house.
Yeah,
and everyone always ends up back there while pointing a finger at it.
Yeah.
Like, blame Newcastle.
Yeah.
But I can never get out of it, and I never want to, and I never will. And then and it's weird because you grow up and very quickly do you realize the same, like, we're just becoming the next generation of parents in Newcastle. And then you realize that all of the parents were the same thing we were.
Yeah.
And it's very depressing.
Oh, absolutely.
It's very depressing. And in all honesty, I would say when I started to read and when I left for the military, I'm very thankful.
Yeah.
Because that saved my life.
Yeah.
It saved my life. I was instantly removed.
Yeah.
And I got to learn a lot quicker than other people what it feels like to have to cut that out.
Yeah.
And to fully remove yourself from something that your whole entire identity was attached to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So it's...
What was some of your favorite, or maybe one or two of your favorite memories growing up? Just in general. Something family, school, personal, whatever though.
So I couldn't honestly... The only reason that I could say they're my favorite is because they changed my life. So to a lot of people, these wouldn't make sense to say, like, how was that your favorite memory?
Yeah.
But if we're talking about self-mastery, there's a reason these are my favorite, because I would not be who I am today if they didn't happen.
Yeah.
Right? Like me getting robbed and set up and kidnapped and almost, murdered.
I've always heard bits and pieces of the story, but never from you.
Yeah. So like, that is my favorite memory of all time, because it's funny. You watch Joe Rogan a lot.
Yeah.
So anyone who watches Joe Rogan a lot, you've probably heard about DMT 2,000 times in your life.
No.
Yes, you have.
No, I have.
So I really don't know about it. So could you explain? I always hear bits and pieces because of Sam and other people talk about, you know, like DMT and the death experience and things like that. Like, what is DMT? What is that experience it actually gives you?
DMT is dimethyltryptamine. Is a substituted tryptamine that occurs in many plants and animals, and which is both a derivative and a structural analog of tryptamine. It is used as a recreational psychedelic drug and prepared by various cultures for ritual purposes as an entheogen. So, from my understanding of DMT, and it's more
you pulled that up really fast.
Yeah, I'm always ready to go. But my understanding of DMT from a sympathetic standpoint of view of like just trying to have a general understanding is it's this psychedelic experience and more of a microdosage opposed to ayahuasca like Sam did. So he has a better, and he has more of an empathetic and just a true experience. So you guys will be able to tune into his podcast and listen to it and just ask him. But
he actually did it. He did ayahuasca.
He did ayahuasca. But these tryptamines, like it's DMT is naturally produced within your body, but to get an excessive amount, from what Sam's explained to me and people have explained to me, is like it happens twice naturally in your life, when you're born and then when you die. But it's almost like this enlightening experience to my understanding of like where you're almost like tripping. You know what I mean? I don't know if you've ever smoked or done anything where it's like you feel kind of like loopy, but like a whole other universal experience where you're almost removed. Looking down on yourself or down on the world into yourself is kind of the feeling, like a surreal feeling of like just awareness and presence, but you're removed. So it's like, how could you be absently present? You know what I mean? Like those real trippy things when you watch movies like Interstellar or things like that. You know what I mean? Where you're removing yourself from reality and removing yourself from transcending and normality with abnormality. You know what I mean? So you're like taking these multiple universes and combining it into one to give you these experiences. And a lot of really wealthy people, they microdose a lot of these psychedelic drugs. And you've read on I'm reading the Steve Jobs book and reading how, he was, acid and microdosing and a lot of these guys psilocybin, and it opens up this creative portion and portal in your mind where there's a lot of peace. You know, you get a lot of people that experience a lot of bliss and peace, and just this creativity. A lot of the tech people that I see, like a lot of these tech geniuses and like big Mongols and like business, they're like, you know what I mean? Like microdosing psilocybin, which is similar to a psychedelic. It's those medical mushrooms or whatever.
Yes.
And no microdose this shit for just I think it was, I don't know if it wasn't Steve Jobs. I think it was Nikola Tesla and some of these guys you'll hear like on Joe Rogan, and like if you read like their autobiographies and shit like that, where they're like, they say that they were created for the purpose of creating. Like their mind, like Nikola Tesla is known for saying like he would just be sitting there and not like thinking to try to create, but the universe would speak to him and like tell him, here's what you need to go out and create. Yeah. Same thing with Thomas Edison.
And a lot of people, that's actually funny you mentioned those two because they were rivals. And a lot of people put
Edison gets some of the credit for what Nikola Tesla did. Yeah. And not many people know that. Not many people know who Nikola the actual Nikola Tesla was more of like the founding father of a lot of the like the electricity and all. Like if you really study these cats, like
they put him off as crazy though.
Yes.
They pushed him off as crazy.
Did both of them have their factories burned down? Because there's good stories of these guys overcoming adversity, kind of like you getting robbed, like factories burned down and sitting there saying like, oh, it's all right, we'll just build another.
Exactly. Well, there's a really good they almost made it into like a weird, corny movie.
Yep.
Called Tesla.
Yep.
It's about Nikola Tesla's life and him creating like the semiconductors, everything like that, and Thomas Edison, them being rivals, and it kind of went more into depth on everything. But I think to talk about your point, like these individuals, if you think about it, you know, like, and I know we're going off here from what we were talking about, but a lot of people will say, well, if I don't have a purpose or if I can't find a purpose, where do I start?
Yeah.
Right. And I always give this game to individuals who, because like it is true. You can't push people down for not knowing their purpose yet. A lot of people are like, I don't know yet. I don't know what I want.
Or I tell people like, don't get upset with the depth of your purpose at this point in your life as well. Because people are like, well, my why isn't like yours. It's not very clear and defined. I'm like, your why is your why. You know what I mean? Start somewhere opposed to nowhere.
My why is so universal. It's insane. Like,
mine's pretty bland.
My why is something that everyone can attach to. Yeah. And here's what it is. From watching the men who built America, the Carnegies, the Teslas, the Vanderbilts, the JP Morgans, you know, the Teslas, the people we're talking about, go a generation before them, even though we might not know those people, the people who built roads, the people who built, you know, the systems that allow us to have water going through pipe, you know, all of these things. Individuals sacrificed their lives for the structure and the society that we have today. Like right now, we're sitting in a room full of cameras and lights. Yep. And if you expand out, we're sitting in a building. Yeah. Right. And then that building has a parking lot. That parking lot has cars in it. If you go out the street, there's going to be restaurants. There's going to be electricity. The world works. Yeah. Right. Society works. It's structured. There's structure and then there's chaos. There's organization and then there's chaos. But you have people and laws and everything that's governing the way that we live. Like back in the day, people used to pillage, rape, murder, and that was normal. That was regular. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? People sacrificed their lives to build all of these little things over time that add up into what we have today. Yeah. It took like 19 inventions for the car to be invented, right? It took 200 inventions for the building to be invented.
For Fred Flintstone.
You know what But like, seriously, that's something that everyone can attach themselves to. You know what I mean? So if you have no purpose, think about the fact that you are not put here to exist. Yep. You were put here to sacrifice yourself to create for the next generations like the previous generations have done for us. Yep. And everyone can attach themselves to that. Yep. You know?
Yeah. Now, you getting robbed. Favorite memory, but also your biggest adversity maybe. Yes. Up until this point, would you say that's your biggest adversity that you've had to overcome?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So what was that like getting robbed?
Well, to explain that, I'd have to explain
like the story.
Where we went, you know how me and you were talking. So like Newcastle, growing up, fast, right? Like, what bad could have happened? Yeah, well, you know, I got myself, and I still have a lot of love for these people because some of these people were the same ones that allowed me to. They said, go off and do your own thing, and we'll support you. And because a lot of people hate you when you're trying to grow. They'll be like, he's the reason why I'm failing.
Yeah.
And they'll call you disloyal,
Yep.
but really they're disloyal because they're stopping you from growing.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? But a few of those people are like,
People only help
go
you
off.
when you're doing worse than them.
Exactly.
As soon as you start doing better than them, it's always some hidden motive to make you eventually come back down beneath them to do the same as they're doing. Like as soon as you start doing better than somebody, you got to really examine their motives. And it's not you just assuming everybody's a fuck, but you got to realize like, you know, like if you're doing better than someone and someone's suggesting advice, you've got to test it against credible sources.
Yes.
And against their motives of like, all right, well, I'm doing better now, and this person just called me and said like I should do X, Y, and Z, and then you run it and then kind of like test. It's like, well, that actually leads to me like doing way worse. You know what I mean? It's like,
and that's easy to think about for us now.
Yeah.
But it wasn't.
oh yeah, no, not then. Yeah, you're
know
gonna
what I
get
mean?
tripped up, set up.
Yeah, and in Newcastle, we grew up really fast, right? Like the partying and everything that kids do. It doesn't
Yep.
matter if you try to stop them or not. The partying, the sex, the drugs, the alcohol, this, that, and the third, right? That started like in Newcastle. For being honest, in Newcastle, that starts when you're like 13, 14 years old.
Yeah.
Whether you want to lie about it or not, I'm sorry to all the parents out there who might hear this.
Well, I had my first gun at 15,
Yeah, you know,
and I had a high point 45.
yeah.
High point 45, flipping a few quarters. I'd get an ounce
You
here
were
and
from
there.
Little Rock, Arkansas, right?
Yeah, Little Rock, Arkansas, but I was up in Westmoreland County in Jeanette. You know what I mean? So there's some good players have come out of there into the league, but my house was shot up, and that was from kids from Uniontown. So that's like south. So
And Little Rock, Arkansas is, I grew up, one of my good friends in the military is from there. That's similar.
yeah, Little Rock, yeah, in the city is a great, but I grew up in the country, the black
okay.
country too.
Okay.
So it was like all black cowboys.
Okay.
Good mix. But what'd you get involved in? Were you selling drugs? Like, what are you doing that you get involved and you get robbed?
Man, so we were doing a lot. I never personally got into drugs.
Yeah.
Specifically, I was around that.
Yep.
A lot.
Yep.
At a very high level.
Yep.
Right. Individuals who did it at a very high level. People in Atlanta, people in Mississippi, people in Newcastle, wherever.
Yep.
Detroit, like all of these places.
What are their government names?
I don't remember, but one thing led to another, and I actually got into. I met a dude in New York who did a lot of scamming with clothes.
The Peaky Blinders.
Peaky Blinders. That's a really good show. We should talk about that.
Yeah,
that's
dude.
a great show.
It's a fire show.
It's amazing.
I don't watch TV. Go ahead.
You've definitely watched that show from beginning to end. But so a lot of chain, like New York, all the stores, Bergdorf Goodman, all these stores, the designer clothes, things like that. Doing that at a very high level.
Yep.
Right. And I got myself in very, very deeply, deeply. And one thing led to another. So growing up in these environments with these cultures, you start thinking a certain way and you start acting a certain way. And I was all in. I quit all sports. I dedicated my life to doing this kind of stuff when I was in like the 11th and the 12th grade. I got involved with really bad people, and they say that the most dangerous person in this world is someone who has nothing to lose. Yeah. Right? I was around everyone who I was around, we all had nothing to lose and everything to gain. So at that point, someone will end your life and go to jail for 60 years over ego, right? Over you saying one thing and then having an ego, and that's the life that you're living in. 100% to the fullest extent. Yeah. Right. And if I fast forward, I got out of the military the first time and I came back to that. Yeah. I came back to it, and that was depressing. That was one of the most depressing things I ever went through, because I was like, I got out, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and then I went back. And I ended up getting kidnapped and robbed and held at gunpoint.
Because what? You had a late shipment? Like, what the hell happened?
Well, no, it's just I got followed.
Okay.
And I didn't understand what was happening. I was getting followed, and I was like, am I really getting followed? I didn't know I was getting followed. Yeah. And I drove somewhere to see if I was really getting followed. And I went to like pull over and like hurry up and turn around, but it didn't work out.
I'm just sitting here thinking like, I'm getting followed. Dude, you really are that white kid from like the Scary Movie. I'm getting followed. Let me go down that dark road where nobody is. And whatever the fuck happens. Dude, you drove down to a cornfield. Oh, I'm getting followed. Let me go down there. Nobody's here.
Here's what happened. I could have got away, but in those moments, you don't know what's actually going on because you've never experienced it.
Yeah.
So I seen 7 dudes hop out of a car.
Damn, they needed 7 for you?
All with guns.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm like, if I take off right now, is this car going to start getting blasted?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, facts.
So I'm like, at that point, you're in fight or flight. You don't know what to do. And I was like, let me not do something that causes a whole bunch of bullets to start going at this car.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I stop, and then I get brought somewhere, and just robbed, getting beat, getting kidnapped, everything, taking everything.
What did they want?
They just wanted everything that I had.
And it was more of a proving a point. Did you say something to somebody?
No, I was never like that. I was.
Did you leave on bad terms? Like, what causes these people to just pick you?
To this day, I've never tried to figure it out.
Okay.
I've never tried to look into it.
It's not controllable because it's already occurred. It's in the past.
It's not the loss.
Okay.
Right. I've always found that like we think that we need to know why.
Yeah.
And that was hard to do with my curiosity, that I have. But for something like that, I don't need to know why that happened.
Knowing that you could have died, then would you say that was the most traumatic part of that event?
Well, the most traumatic part of that event is at the end when all of them were cool. They were all cool with what they got. They got a lot out of it. They had like my addresses and everything like that. They were like, if this bank information isn't right, we're going to go to this house on this ID.
Yep.
So I was like, I might as well just take the loss and give you all of my bank information. I don't want someone pulling up at my house. So we'll let it be. And then I went on the run for like 6 to 8 months and I'll tell you, that's how I got back into the military.
Yeah.
I needed to go somewhere. But the most traumatic part is when everyone else of those kids were cool, there was one kid who stayed back and just like held a gun at me to my head.
Yeah.
And all of the other kids were yelling at him like, don't shoot him. Like, let's go, we're good, we got what we wanted. And this one kid just didn't care what they were saying. He was just standing over me with the gun pointed at me.
Yeah.
And he would like look back at them and then he would look back at me. And they would be like, don't shoot. And they were like saying it louder every time, like, don't shoot him. And that was going on for like 2 minutes. And that felt like an eternity.
Yeah.
And I'm like that is when we talk about the DMT or whatever that is, that's when that was occurring, right? Because I was like, they're telling him not to shoot and he's not listening to his friends. He's not listening to his friends right now. And I'm like, so what does he want? Like, what does he want to do? Yeah. Because he's the one with the gun standing over me right now and he has all power, all control.
You should have asked him that.
I was like, well, no, I told him, I was like, I didn't know what to say. But at that point, that's when life happened all the way from beginning to end. Yeah. In my mind, I lived a full life at that moment, right? Like, because to me, it was done. I'm like, it's done. Yeah. It's absolutely done. I'll be the kid on the news where it's like, this happened to him. How did this happen to him? They're going to paint a story around it. No one actually has any idea what's going on. Yeah. And I could have been this. Yeah. This is what I could have been. Because I always had that drive to like figure out life at the highest extent. Yeah. Like from the 3rd grade, like we were talking about earlier. And I'm like, dang, I could have figured it out. I could have changed the world. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that's what it was. It was that 2 minutes that changed everything. Yeah. Yeah.
So now you're coming to that, you go into the run, you go back into the military, and this is probably getting up to more current. So now you're back into the military. But you're also during like the week or whatever, because you're like in the reserve, right? Mm-hmm. So now during the week,
I was full-time reserves.
Full-time reserves, which means like every weekend or something you go,
like it's like a real, like full-time every day.
Okay, so full-time
reserves. Yeah, I was on active duty orders.
Okay.
For 2 years.
Okay. And then, but when did you get into your most recent venture prior to us?
So it was during that time. Yeah. So I went back and I got into the reserves and I started like I left Newcastle at that point. Yep. I met a kid who was one of my really good friends now. His name's Jaden.
Does he do this?
No, he does not. Right now he's doing business consulting literally doing what we were doing before I did this. Still my brother, still my right-hand man, most loyal. You know, like it'll always be one of my really, really, really good friends and family members.
Well, if he was really loyal and a good friend, he would come do this.
No.
We know the real answer deep down in our hearts.
No. But so I was in the military and I started to realize what I could be. That's when I started reading, and that's when I started taking that military job very seriously, right? And that's when I started to realize, you know, success just starts.
So how long have you been reading? 3 years?
3 years. Since about 20 years old, yeah.
Yeah, so I've been reading longer.
About when I went in there. So like you've been reading longer, but I probably
I've read more
like
books.
7 times as much.
No, I went over that. How many books do you think you've read? I already know how many I've read.
I think like 2,100.
You've not read 2,100 books. No, you've not read 2,100 books.
That's your ego.
Well, that would be how many books I read last year, but you've not read 2,100 books.
I don't even know.
Yeah, me either.
Yeah. But so I started taking that career very seriously.
Yeah.
And I knew I didn't enjoy it.
Yep.
Right? Like how often do we enjoy something like that?
You only studied Joseph Stalin. Go ahead.
But, you know, so like I started developing my character there, like the leadership character.
Yep.
I'm going to come here and I'm going to bring good energy to this place.
Yeah.
And it was not long before I met Jaden. I knew Jaden from growing up in Newcastle.
Yep.
But then I really met him.
Yeah.
And
how old is he?
22, 23. And at that point, I found someone who was on the same mission as me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He had the same mindset and the same perspective. And the moment we met, we started talking about a venture capital firm. You know how venture capital works?
I actually just researched it the other day because I was curious because I never really knew what venture capitalism was. But correct me if I'm wrong, it's, you know, putting a lot of capital into a new opportunity that has a high risk versus reward.
Exactly.
So like there's a lot of risk, but there's a lot of upside potential as well.
Yes, it's like you're not investing into the local bakery.
Yeah.
You're investing into the next Mark Zuckerberg.
Yep.
And that's venture capital at its core.
So how do you identify those ventures, I would imagine?
Well, so it's like, and that's what we studied for so long because that's what our plan was. And it still is to this day. I still feel like I'm going to own a venture capital firm one day, but it's not about identifying which ones. It's venture capital is a home run game.
Yeah.
Right?
I feel like if you find somebody with the right character, it doesn't even matter obviously their business plan and strategy, you know, matters, but I think people overanalyze the business and the strategy opposed to the
focused
the individual
perspective.
Yes,
it's very founder focused, and that's exactly right. And like for example,
that's how Warren Buffett hires.
Yes. Yeah.
He hires
integrity.
Energy. Like one of his hiring questions is like, can I trust this individual with my family?
Yes.
Like, would I trust this individual with my family at home, like with my bank accounts, all that? You know what I mean? Like, you come in, you're going to hire me. You got your wife. You know what I mean? She's laid out with a robe on the couch. You know what I mean? And there's like 50,000. Like, I'm being like that serious. You know what I mean? Your wife looking nice, laid out on the couch with the robe on. So there's a tea on it, and then there's cash on the table.
Dude, think.
Can I trust this cat?
I think even more extreme than that because that's only like a night thing or a week thing. Like, would I trust this individual with my wife and kid stuck on an island?
Yes.
For a year.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's really it. But like, and so there's a venture capital firm called Andreessen.
Like Peter? Fuck no.
But
Peter would be like, man, just to get over it, man. I ain't got nothing that months.
What do you got to say?
I'll give him 3 mackerels for this.
There's a venture capital firm called Andreessen Horowitz. They're the one who invested in Instagram.
Okay.
Right. So that's what you would call like a home, like it's focused on a home run because for the 10 companies that they just invested into and probably got nothing.
Yeah.
They made $15 billion off of Instagram.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's a game of home runs. That's what venture capital is. And so long story short, we start
What's the difference between a venture capitalist or whatever would be investor and an angel investor?
Very similar. The only difference is one would do it on their own. without a, so for example, we ran a.
So a venture capital firm is a bunch of people coming together and they get a percentage, obviously, if that home run explodes. An angel investor's got a fuck ton of money and just like, look, I'm putting 20%.
It's his own capital.
Okay.
It's his own capital.
Yeah, he's putting all that money.
So like, let's say Simon.
Venture capitalist is going out and raising funds. You guys are going out, hey, look, this is the next big thing. Give me 5 racks. But what percent of that 5 rack? Because you're just getting their money. Why wouldn't I get if you come to me and say I'm getting 10 racks and, there's this new thing called Instagram. Why the fuck do you get a percent on the return on investment?
So here's the way that and so this is the same with a real estate fund, a private equity fund, a venture capital firm, the private, like any of these investment firms.
Yeah.
Right. So they all work the same way.
Yeah.
You have to they have to be a private fund that is registered through the SEC.
Yeah.
Right. And you're raising a lot of capital together. Right.
Yeah.
So think about an investment advisor.
Yep.
He would handle each individual's account with their money specifically.
Yep.
So if I put in $1 million, he's only going to manage my $1 million separately.
Yeah.
It's not going to be tied in with another client's $1 million. A venture capital firm or a private equity firm or a hedge fund, right? What they're doing is they're going out to 100 individuals and they're saying, put $100 million into this fund.
Yeah.
We're going to take all of this money in one big lump sum, right? We're going to put it all together and we're going to generate one overall return. And then there's something called a waterfall chart, right? So the normal waterfall chart for like a venture capital firm, like Grant Cardone has his real estate fund. It's going to be a 2% management fee up front. The first 8% goes to you, right? So you give me your money, we generate 1,000% return because of Instagram, this, that, and the third.
Why don't we raise money to invest into for people to invest into us as a venture, if that makes sense?
We should.
You know what I mean? Because I feel like I should go out and raise $1 million right now and just throw it into recruiting because I know I'll get, our side of the deal up to, 500,000 a week or $1 million, you know what I mean? And be able to generate that ROI.
Yeah. Just give them a percentage of the business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like, hey, look,
absolutely.
Like, why don't people do that?
That'd be an angel investor. That someone would do that for you. They would be considered an angel investor.
Yeah.
They would take equity in your company, right? I think that'd be a great idea. And then
as we talk about like we should get celebrities on board, it's like we should raise money and then even almost offer the celebrities not only a position and show them like their potential, like, you know what I mean, return on investment over time,
yes,
but also like a sign-on bonus. Like we go out, we do a venture capital, whatever, and then we raise up that capital and be like, we're also going to give you $50,000 signing bonus just for you even entertaining the idea, just for 12 months.
Yeah.
For you to plug in at least 4 people a month. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's automatically they're getting something. It's like, and you got to do 4 podcasts and you know what I mean? So I'm like thinking in my mind, it's like just an idea as we're talking about this.
Well, the thing is, I feel like because a founder's goal is to always give away the least amount of equity that they can. Because if your vision is to have $1 billion business, 2%, imagine how much that could be. Imagine if I think Jeff Bezos only owns like 26% of Amazon and he's worth that much money. Yeah. Because it's almost $1 trillion company.
Look.
Imagine if Jeff Bezos owned 80% of Amazon. That's why a founder's goal is to always give away the least amount of equity that they can.
What percent does Jeff Bezos own? So you get into this with Jaden, right?
I want to know this answer.
Sit there and wait. Of Amazon. What percentage does Jeff Bezos own of Amazon? I spelled it wrong. He maintains a 10.3% stake on Amazon. Outside of Amazon, Bezos' activity in his other investment has ramped up in recent years. Last November, he announced a $791 million gift to 16 organizations that are fighting climate change. So that
what's his net worth?
That was his tax write-off.
If you had to guess. We don't need the exact number, but what's his net worth? Just for numbers.
I think he's number 2. I think he's 290. I check. So what I check avidly is I'll check Forbes probably. There's a lot of things that I check quarterly and then like monthly. So like monthly, I check. Like I'll go on and do like news research and just stock research on just life insurance, our industry in general, because the more education we have in our industry, the more buy-in that I can have for myself, the more energy I can pour back into our people and get more buy-in from them and share that with them. And then quarterly, I'll check Forbes for the richest people and then I'll check their top 10 books. Like I'm just finishing up. The reason I even got into these, I do not like to read somewhat outside of our business yet, because I feel like we're in the first 5-7 years, I should spend all of my energy on foundational learning and education. So when I'm reading outside of our industry, it's audiobook and it's more of me learning what to do and what not to do. Whereas if I'm reading within our industry, I try to do it physically as well, physically and audiobook. So I'm reading their top 10s, but this is something I do quarterly where I'll analyze the richest people in the world. What are they doing? How can we mesh it into our company? What are the more of the philosophies opposed to like a lot like Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk are the ones I'm really fascinated with right now. A lot of it's artificial intelligence. So I don't know how I would incorporate, but it's more of their mindset. How can we innovate and adapt and evolve our minds to incorporate this evolutionary thinking of, that I just finished this book, Super Intelligence, which was literally a book basically near rocket science to my intellectual abilities. But it gives me good concept of like these dudes are very smart, but at the same time, they're just like you and I, you know what I mean? They're just focused, driven. And then people that are really successful, they've just got this, I wouldn't even call it like a quality or like an attribute, but like it's like this feature where there's what we want and then there's no other option.
Yes.
You know what I mean? The only other, variable with that is time. We accept that there's going to be time. So it's like, in my mind, I write down $1 trillion every day and there's no other fucking option. You know what I mean? It's like, it's going to happen. And the only other variable that I accept is time.
Yes.
I don't accept any other fucking variables. When I set my mind to something, that's for me, it's more of the rebuy-in. But like the richest dude in the world, like check out Forbes and you can do the richest people in the world and then the richest, youngest people in the world. There's an 18-year-old in Germany that's worth like $100 billion. Now his dad died and he like inherited it. But I don't care about that. I think numbers are numbers. If he's number one, I got to beat number one. You know what I mean? So I don't really care. I'll be like, people are like trust fund babies. I really don't give a fuck how they got it.
Yeah.
I'm not number one. And for me, it's less materialism and it's more of just like, not egotistically, but it's just a competitive drive of I'd like to be number one.
People like you are like, let's say you fail. You're going to fail.
Yeah, absolutely.
Making history.
Yes.
At a much higher, like for example, imagine failing at
201 billion.
Imagine failing at $790 billion.
Yep.
So it's a good failure.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And like for someone, okay, so we have Bezos, for example.
Yep.
He owns 10% of his company and is worth $200 million.
Yeah.
So if we're talking to a young founder whose goal is to build $1 billion business, how serious do you think they're going to take every percentage that they give away based on someone wanting to invest? And I feel like that's why, like, for example, we talk about, would we give a percentage away to someone to invest into our business? Well, how much do you, like, if you think about Tristan at 70 years old, what would you say 2% of your business is worth at 70 years old?
It would probably be like a quadrillion.
So now if we're offering someone 2% of our business right now, it's like, that's what we have to think about.
Yeah.
What could 2% be?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like giving them a projection. So that's probably what you guys do then as well. Like when you were in the venture capitalism, it's like, look, your 2% right now might equate to $2,000 or $200.
Yes.
But you got to realize this compound interest and compound value over time. Like this thing's going to blow up to 200 million.
Exactly.
And all you did was give us $2,000.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
So it's like, I feel like with our business, we're blessed.
What do you think stops people from having a long-term perspective? Ego?
In life?
Yes. I would say ego.
Ego's one of them.
I would say it's a major piece of like preventing people from having a long-term perspective because they need that short-term gratification of I need this now. Why do you need it now? What the fuck do you need right? Like what do you need all of this equity and all of these funds and materialism now for? What are you going to go do with it? What are you going to do with all that fucking money?
Yeah.
What are you going to go get a big ass house?
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to do? Walk around in this empty big ass house with some empty-minded wife or empty-minded husband and with your I love nice fucking things. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Lamborghinis,
exactly.
certain things like that. But like the power of the trillions of dollars isn't for me to completely influence my personal life, but it's for me to influence and shape the world.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And not for just the legacy. The legacy is cool. You know what I mean? That happens regardless. If you're good to people, that happens regardless.
Well, imagine your wife
But
hating
the lives, yes.
Imagine your wife hating her life.
Yep.
Imagine your kids hating you and their life.
I would take them to
secretly
the Spartan Mountain.
To the Spartan Mountain.
Yeah. You know what the Spartans used to do to the babies that were like deformed?
What did they do?
They used to take them to the mountain and drop them off. Any deformities, they would just throw the kids away. Am I wrong, Peter? 300, dude. And I mean, if you study I love history. I know you like history as well, but I love history. So obviously a little separation there, but yeah, they used to take the deformed children and they would drop them off, top of the mountain.
Yeah, no, I think, And I want people to know that we're not just bringing this up to say like your wife's gonna hate you.
Yeah.
That there's a real purpose behind that. You said, why can't people think long term?
Yeah.
Like I think if we could go deep with it and get complicated, we could be simple with it, you know, but it all starts somewhere, and it starts with self-awareness of what you want. And that comes from where? It comes from reading.
Yeah.
Bro, I swear to you, like if someone asks me for real advice on life and they have not read yet, I always have the same answer. Read this book.
What about the really rich people that don't read? Like the dude last night, you know,
I don't
that
think they're
plays,
really rich.
Okay, I'm not. You're measuring it internally.
People have a lot of money.
No, but like also somewhat intelligent as well. Like the dude that we were talking about last night. You know what I mean? Where like he don't read that much. Where he's playing a lot of video games.
Yes.
And then you have Gary V. You know he claims to not read.
Mm-hmm.
You know he might read articles and like news shit, but like I would consider him a pretty well-rounded and open. So I think when it comes to education, into self-education and I don't think I completely agree with you. I need to read a significant amount, and one, I just enjoy it.
Well, look at their bodies, though.
I agree.
Those two people you just named.
Yeah, I agree with that. You know what I mean? If we're analyzing every aspect of them, but I'm also thinking it's like it might not be the only route that people need to take. You know what I mean? Because the people that are listening to this, it's like you got to build in correspondence, and this is what I've really learned in leadership over the last year of like where I fucked up. You know, I've had some decent success in the company, in the industry, but like I can look at like just revolutionary for like last year, like I was on pace to make $1 million last year, you know what I mean? Prior to my promotion. And we were doing really well, but I look at it and I was like, I was on pace to make $1 million, but I could have made 10 million because of the issues in my leadership and the incongruency in it, where I was like following it on paper, but removing certain things that I did, like portraying where it looked really good, but like behind closed doors, like really tyrant style of leadership. You know what I mean? Like if you're not here, fuck you. If you're going to see your family on Christmas, fuck you. Like really type of, you know, lack of relationship leadership.
I hear you, bro. I have a lot of empathy for you in that aspect because
cost me a lot of money, but it's having that long-term perspective of like, well, and then you got to ask people what do they want and build around what they want and why they want it. That's my biggest lesson I've learned over this last year of like, I got to stop making people marry my vision, and I've got to step down, sacrifice, not my vision, but sacrifice my intent of driving them to my vision and help them build towards their vision.
Exactly.
Because not everybody wants the body.
Exactly.
Not everybody wants the mind. Mike Maloney makes a fuck ton of money. He does really well. He's an awesome kid. I love you, Mikey. But he don't read that much, and he don't read that much.
Here's the thing, and that goes into the long-term thinking as well. Because if you really think about it, we have time where whatever we do is not going to affect us right now.
Yeah.
So that, like, they say a healthy person wants 1,000 things. A sick person wants one thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like everything that these young kids are doing nowadays, I'm young, I'm 23, but things change fast nowadays.
Yeah.
And I tell this to young kids in the office all the time. Ask yourself, what is the purpose of you puffing in and out?
I hate that thing so much.
In and out.
What do you think's going to happen to these kids in 10 years? I keep thinking.
That's my point. Like
it scares me.
It does scare me. The food that you're eating.
We're going to have to rebuild our businesses.
That's what it's like. Like, okay, yes, you could do all these things now and you'll still see success.
Yeah.
The reason I think that I might have a clue on what I'm talking about here is because I truthfully believe that even if I didn't do mind, body, and spirit and didn't take care of my soul and didn't take care of my body and didn't read, I think I'm someone that on the surface would be successful because I naturally have a drive and an intellect.
Yes.
But I had to look at myself and say, how long is that going to last?
Yeah.
It's not going to last very long before it crumbles because I'm going to get myself to somewhere that my body is not going to be able to keep me, right? That my perspective, that my humility, that my gratitude is not going to be able to keep me there, right? So like, yes, you could eat 10,000 calories a day right now if you're young and you're 19 years old. You could vape 10 hours a day. You could pop Adderalls and do this and that and the third. And you could go out there and do reckless things. And you could watch porn and be addicted to all your pleasures and desires.
Yeah.
But soon enough, you're going to be 26 years old, wondering why you can't lose a pound.
Yeah.
Wondering
and
why.
Empty. And that's where you find these billionaires that are suicidal. They take their lives. You know what I mean? Because there's an emptiness. And I tell people this all the time because I do not like to fucking leave the office, and people are like, you're so weird. What's wrong with you? You don't vacation. You need to get away. And I was like, I've created a life where my getaway is my life. Is my life.
Yes.
And they're like, what is that? What is that? And they look at me like I'm disabled. You know what I mean? And like, they don't understand what I'm talking about. I'm like, you truly start living when you create a life of realization that your escape is within. Your escape's never going to be in the fucking money. It's never going to be in the car. It's not going to be in the sex. It's not going to be in the trips.
Fucking vacation.
The vacation. I don't understand the fucking vacations because I fucking hate them. I'm like, dude, I'm away from my vacation.
Well, bro,
my vacation's the office.
They say a man travels around the country to find out that he finds what he was looking for at home.
Yes.
Right.
People are always searching, not realizing. I'm like, and it's so cliche because it's like what you're searching for is always within. I'm like, no, motherfucker, it really is within. Yeah. Sit down and grow you and develop this home within you where wherever you go, you're at home.
And that's not comfortable.
Right.
Because that takes. Now we're really getting into like this is the one thing that changed everything for me.
Yeah.
When I was 21 years old.
Yes.
I wrote a book for myself to me.
Yep.
About who I am. And that was hard.
Yeah.
Because doing that, I had to look within.
Yep.
All of the things that I've swept under the rug for 21 years, or ever since I was 14, or whenever I was able to start thinking.
Yep.
I had to face the truths. I had to face the demons, the ones that have wanted me to avoid them, because when you avoid them, they can continue to control you. When you don't let them out, they can continue to control you.
Yeah.
Right. So I wrote a book, and I went through every stage of my life. I broke it down. 1 to 3, 3 to 5, 5 to 7, 14 to 18.
I did the same thing. It's so weird.
And I'm like, okay, this happened. And because this happened,
I literally did the same thing. When I had my awakening, I literally did the same. It's so weird. My book's called The Last of a Dying Breed.
The Last of a Dying Breed. I don't even remember. I wanted to publish it. I think it was something along the lines.
I didn't publish mine. I asked, because I wrote my first 3, like I was in the first 3 months of this business, and you know how hard that is. This is why I think I wrecked so much, because I wouldn't go home. I would tell myself I needed to write 10 pages every night. And I think I have it here. And then we're about an hour and a half in, but I think we're good. Because I want to get into more. So we're writing the books, we're examining ourselves, and then I also want to see what the first chapter 1, the beginning of the end. It was 1998, September 25th, in the early hours of the morning that I would draw my first gay shit.
Yeah.
But I wrote this book. It's 135 pages. And another thing that's kind of pushed me away from publishing is Maxwell. I was at the Maxwell event, and he was like, every time someone writes a book, they want to write about themselves. And I was like, yo, fuck my book. But I also wrote this other book called The Black Planet, and it's about like the beginning origin. No, I'm just kidding. It's Peter's book. Bro, he has this dope book idea. I'm going to steal the hell out of it.
But bro, seriously, like if you do that, if you could do that, and you could figure out what has made you so far.
Yes.
Everything there.
Yes.
And then you could deconstruct and reprogram.
Yep.
And from that point on,
we're all computers. We are the artificial intelligence right now. You know, we are the super intelligence right now. And what do you do to your phone? You know what I mean? Every time I give a speech or do any type of a consulting, I'm like, it's all programming. You guys laugh when I say do affirmations, and people laugh at me when they're like, my results are down. I'm like, well, how's your mind, body, and spirit? And they're like, and they get pissed. So I've got people that got pissed at me because I'm like, well, that's the only solution I know, is I know how to adjust your programming. I know if my phone's out of date and I want new emojis, or I want my phone to,
update it.
I have to update it.
Yeah.
I got to reprogram it and update it. And the software, what is it? The operating, so it's operating
system.
Yeah, the operating system, the OS. You know what I mean? Well, you are your most valuable thing in the world. If you have complete control over your operating system, why wouldn't you be forcefully, manually updating it? If we know 10 years from now, phones are going to be in a position where they're like, the fuck is this, Peter? So if we know, fuck that. So if we know, like, you could forcefully update your operating system every fucking day. Like, if you knew your phone could be doing something 10 times more than it is right now, 10 years from now, you would do that update right now.
Yeah.
Like the trillions of dollars of value that you can bring to this world, whether that be mentally, physically, spiritually, financially, it's in your hands.
Mm-hmm.
Like the rate that you get there, I love how Elon Musk put it so simple. It's like, we're going to the same place. If we're working towards the same destination and you work 8 hours and I work 16 hours, I get there twice as fast.
Exactly. It's compound interest.
It's compound interest.
Every billionaire that you listen to, like remember Chamath Palihapitiya,
yeah, dude,
like
stud.
talking about the compound interest of life. That's
so
with
simple.
your habits. Like if I had to give 2 pieces of advice to anyone, right? Like it would be this. It would be, do what we just said. Write the book of your life.
Yep.
And just keep it for you. You don't gotta put it anywhere.
Exactly.
This is for you.
Yes.
And then figure out how you master yourself. And then the second thing on the back end is create a life plan. Like I always talk about this. Me and Jaden, who I was talking about earlier, we sat down and we created a 60-year plan. And I presented this to Simon probably the 5th time I met him.
Yeah.
Right. The 5th time I met him, I was like, I have this plan, and I'm, at that time I was just this young nutcase. I was all over the place.
Yeah, I think I remember him telling me about your plan.
Yeah, and it was
like he wants to be an astronaut, and like
it was to have a casino, a museum, be the president of the United States, like these things.
I used to write down airport. I want to own an airport.
Own an airport. Like
airports and hotels. Those are my favorite things. I love flying and I like hotels.
And it's like, okay, well then how do you include your values and your morals and your ethics in this? How do you include all of the people that you love in this? How do you include your family, your social life, the friends and the family that you love? How do you include your body, your spirit, your finances, your business? Like all of these things in this plan, and just reverse engineer. Reverse engineer it and have the goals. So I break it down into 3 main sections. I have your purpose, which is your why to all of this. You have your vision, which is your what, and then you have the goals, which are your how. Right. And then I wrote that down in this book at the same time, and that's when everything really started to change. And then you start to look at the little things, right? Like when we talk about compound interest, I think one of the most important things in life, and I talked about this when you had me talk to some of your people on that one call, it's like, if you look at the little insignificant things, we think they're insignificant, right?
Yep.
If you look at those things, those are the absolute most important things that are happening in your life. The things you think are insignificant, like, oh, I see a pumpkin roll downstairs when we walk down there, and I take a slice and I eat it. That's little, right? But what is the compound interest of these habits that I'm breaking? Like one of my kids, like not my kids, one of the people on my team, they asked me, how do I cultivate belief in myself? I say, well, I like to give people how-tos and break it down very simply. Yeah. Right? How do we cultivate belief? And how do I explain this to you as an action plan? You could actually go do this right now. Yeah. Not give you the concept of belief and da-da-da-da-da. Right? Mom was calling me. Hold on. So here's how we cultivate belief. Yep. You tell yourself you're going to go to the gym 2 days in a row, and you do it. What did you just program into your mind? Yep. You're someone who did what you told yourself you're gonna do. Yep. Now, what happens if you say, I'm gonna fast today, and you don't fast that day? Yep. What did you just do to your mind? You subconsciously program your mind to not believe what you said you're gonna do. Yep. And we do this every day. Yep. Every day we have a million opportunities to cultivate belief or disbelief in ourselves. Yeah. And regardless of what you are consciously thinking, it doesn't matter what we consciously. I think scientists say you operate 98 to 99% subconsciously. Subconsciously, because I could sit here and think. So like less than 1% is conscious. Less than 1%, right? Because your subconscious mind will hate yourself if you're not doing what you tell it you're going to do. Yep. It keeps track. That's one of my favorite quotes is Marcus Aurelius. It's like, what disservice does a man do if he doesn't extract the best version of himself? Exactly. I don't know if I said it right, but essentially like it's just the wisdom. Becoming the best version of you. In my mind, you've got to do that. And you can't just select what aspects. I mean, you can if that's your fucking happiness, but like you can't just select what piece. It needs to be mentally, physically, spiritually, financially, sexually, like every little detail. You need to be like, how can I become the best version of me? Yes. Not you becoming somebody else, but the best version of you. Yes. I always tell people that get kind of complicated and frustrated with themselves. I'm like, you're trying to be too much of me. You know what I mean? So you're trying to be me. You know what I mean? It's imitating the path to success and imitating the equations and the variables and like what got individuals there and what's going to take them to the, like, I'm not trying to be Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk. I'm trying to do what they did to get where they're at and where they're going, but with meshing that into my authenticity. Yes.
You know what I mean? Because that
1000%.
also will correspond with your belief and eliminating any type of frustration and you not feeling good about yourself.
You won't be able to get to that billion trillion dollar level if you're not like that. That's the awesome thing about it. When we have those visions,
Yeah.
right? Like to look at it and be like, if I'm not authentic 100% of my life starting today, right now, I'm not going to be able to. When I get to that point, something's going to break.
Yeah.
There's going to be a crack somewhere and it's all going to come crashing down if I don't do everything right now. If I'm not 100% authentic, I'm only going to make it so far and I'm not going to get the things that I said that I want.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you could have that long-term vision, right, then that puts all the pressure on the right now. Like, I need to be 100% authentic. I need to have the utmost integrity.
Yeah.
I can like if one person sees me break my integrity right now, that's costing my presidency of the United States of America if that's my vision.
Absolutely.
Right? Like everything.
Yeah, that's what I was telling you about last night. Like you can only there's like an expense in different areas of your life. Like
Yes.
you've got to analyze the expenses and you know what I mean? If you can do your best to not utilize them, you got to do your best to not utilize them. But like there's expenses in every area where it's like, if you really have that long-term vision of like, this could jeopardize that. Now, as you got into this business, what brought you success? I know what brought you success so quickly. So like getting that success and implementing, we don't need to go over.
What do you think from your, because I would like to know, because
I think it's very simple. So I think it's, it started with a level of humility, which then, opens the door of coachability. So now you're open to coaching. And then step 2, it's just execution. Nobody ever killed anybody by overthinking. You win wars with acting.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Strategy, planning, and everything is phenomenal. But one mediocre deed is way better than one excellent thought and one excellent intent.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So your excellent fucking plans and intentions out there, you geniuses, you know what I mean? That made you 50 bands.
Yes.
I made $400,000 last year, you know what I mean? 21 years old, just fucking acting. And that's not me gloating on me. That's Simon. That's the company. That's my mom supporting me. You know what I mean? That's having the right people around me and the right people working with me as well.
Yeah.
So I think people like overcomplicate shit.
Yeah.
It's really simple. I love Ray Kroc with his system of like taking an ordinary system an ordinary people with an average product, multiply that by an excellent system equals extraordinary results.
Yep.
So it's like we're average people and we sell an average product. We've got an excellent coach with an excellent system. We make millions of dollars and we're 20 years old. You know what I mean? So it's like, I think it's real simple.
And I know me and you, 1,000, like all jokes aside, like 1,000% agree that more than anything we could ever gain from this business, the most important thing is the loyalty. And the character.
People underestimate the value of Simon Arias. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to be on here and like dick ride shit like that, but like it really is like the value of Simon Arias and the connections that he has because it's genuine. There's so many different little variables that people don't analyze.
That's because they don't understand what a fulfilled life is.
Yeah, dude. It really, and because people say they're coachable, but you ain't really coachable until it comes down to you doing something that you don't want to do.
Exactly.
That's when you're coachable. Everybody does, you know what I mean? When it's time to make calls and sell and generate. But like, what about when it's time for you to like make a very disciplined decision and you to be more reserved with your personal life? Back on. So the real trophy.
The real
we got to wrap up.
Very quickly. You were talking about that massive goal, right? The only way people would not think that's realistic is if they're only focused on the trophy of that being the trophy.
Yep.
But people like me and you, even though that's your goal, that's not the real trophy for you. The real trophy is the journey that you go on to attain such a goal.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. The process, the relationships, the memories made in the process.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
That is the trophy for you. So why not set a goal like
that? Exactly. So it's very clear, you've had 13 vaccinations now. How have those been working?
I'm getting my 14th tomorrow.
Wait, are you vaccinated?
No.
Oh, okay. See, I'm not anti-vax.
Me either.
I'm not anti-vax, but what I am anti is I'm anti-individuals I don't trust.
Yeah.
So right now I don't feel like I'm in a position to trust, with just, and it's not, I wouldn't say it's one certain, group or, people's fault, but I would say it's just so much wishy-washy and back and forth things. And well, there's a 0.02% mortality when it comes to COVID. And then I think it's like, well, Ebola, had a higher fatality rate and there was no major press for vaccinations and you didn't need to get vaccinated to go wipe your ass at a public, you know what I mean? So it's like, and we were never offering cheeseburgers for the people that, you know what I mean? And so a piece of me is like, that conspiracy theory of like almost like population control. Like, is it like, is there something in there where it's like, not where it just kill people, but like maybe it limits reproduction. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So right along those lines, my opinion on the vaccine is very rational because I don't care.
I'm very open-minded. I really don't care.
Yeah, it's very rational.
If I have to get it, like I'm forced to get it, what am I going to do? Like die? I'm going to have to end up getting it.
So here's my thing. The pharmaceutical industry is a multi-trillion-dollar industry.
Oh my God. And how many stocks they had in it?
Yeah, dude, it's so.
What the hell?
Normally for a vaccine, it would take about maybe 5 to 10 years to roll out.
Yep.
To test all of the long-term side effects, to understand what actually happens, all of the trial runs. We're talking about a vaccine that was created within a year span, really about 8 months. We don't know the long-term side effects. I'm not saying that there is going to be long-term side effects. It might be the best vaccine known in the world. It might cure everything. Who knows? All I'm saying is I would rather not risk taking something that was created in 8 months when I know a real vaccine takes much longer, much more insight, research and development, trial and test runs to test the long-term
so
side
much
effects.
shit, dude, just gets dropped like, oh, UFOs are real. You know what I mean? Like this is that and this is this. And it's like, it makes me think about so many like history. It makes me think of like Martin Luther King and JFK and like all these figures and things like that. And yeah, dude, it's a lot to think on. It's a lot to take in. But again, I'm really not anti. I'm just open to. I'm open to learning.
Yes.
I just like to learn.
Yep.
You know what I mean? I like to learn and I like people to be able to make their own decisions within moral code.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And people are like, well, your morals aren't necessarily my morals. My morals say I can kill somebody. I'm like, can we just have some fucking common sense? And be like, you know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, my morals say I can go into the girls' bathroom. I'm like, are you fucking kidding? You know what I mean? Like, so
it's a sense of purpose. People need purpose, and they've never found purpose internally. So they attach themselves to an idea of purpose that's very easy to join.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Simple. Like
now, as we wrap up, I know you watch movies every day. So, what's your favorite movie?
My favorite movie.
Yeah, with you watching them every day.
What's the list I texted?
You told me it was Goodwill Hunting. It looked so stupid. I didn't even like it. Looked really sad.
Goodwill Hunting is top 5. The Irishman. Interstellar.
Scarface, probably.
No, fuck.
Goodfellas. Bronx Tale.
Dude, I know I sent you this. And I gave you a purpose for each one, too. What group message was it in?
I don't think I kept it. I just did this recruiting thing. I'm going to have to put you on it. I'm literally getting a call every second.
Me too. Funny enough, I'll have to tell you the phone call I just received.
I apologize for who received a voicemail. I didn't.
Did you eat dessert this morning?
I've never eaten dessert. I did a new recruit.
I swear you did. Peter. Yes, sir. I think Tristan ate dessert this morning.
Oh, for sure, dude. I see him eat a pack of Oreos every morning.
A pack of Oreos. He would say, oh no, I gave you 3.
Okay.
So Goodwill Hunting, which taught me a lot about gratitude and adversity. The Irishman.
What did that teach you? Loyalty?
Principles, ethics, and loyalty.
Yep.
And then the Steve Jobs, the Ashton Kutcher version. It's the Steve Jobs movie where Ashton Kutcher played Steve Jobs.
Yep.
And it showed me what success truly takes.
So you really like that Steve Jobs movie? I was thinking about watching it. Yeah.
I like both. There's 2 of them. The other one is more like on the back half. It's like he's already created Apple. The Steve Jobs one with Ashton Kutcher, that's like when he's young.
Yeah.
And he's going through a lot of stuff, taking the
acid,
psilocybin, the acid and the mushrooms and everything like that. And then building it, losing all of his best friends, like weird things like that happening, having the balls to
my bad, dude.
to build that business essentially with venture capitalists and everything involved. It was really good.
Well, this was dope, dude. Probably one of my best podcasts yet. Hopefully Peter doesn't lose the files and edits it, and hopefully, the mics work.
I appreciate you for having
shit
me,
like that.
Honestly.
Anything you want to shout out, your business, where people can find you?
So Joseph Crivelli, Instagram, first and last name, JOSEPHCRIVELLI. That's probably it for now. But I just wanted to say, thank you for having me on here.
And are you hiring, or what do you sell?
Yeah, of course. We sell life insurance.
Yep.
We're 100% hiring here out of the Wexford office. It's going to be expanding very quickly. It's a very good time right now to get into an opportunity like this. As you know, I'm someone who could really speak on that. I'm someone who most people would have an ego coming out of what I was doing.
Yes. Because you've had a lot of success.
Hedge fund, this, that, and the third, did this, did that, consulting for startup companies. But I recognize the opportunity here.
Yep.
And it's as simple as that. If you have two eyes and a brain and wisdom,
yep,
it's something that you should always look into, if not to work here, to be associated with people like this.
Yep.
You know what I mean? I have so many associates outside of this business that I have love for, that we talk about business, we talk about philosophy, we talk about wisdom, and it's just a culture. It's a culture that we have, because whether it's someone out in LA who's working on, becoming an artist on something, all of us who have this mind that we have, we're going to end up being together in some form or fashion, doing some kind of business together when we're billionaires, when we're trillionaires.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So it just is what it is.
Completely agree. Love it. All right, well, you guys check out Joey Crivelli. I'll probably get him on again, and it was a pleasure. Here we got Joey Crivelli, movie watcher all day, all he does. Let's go. Peace.